Welcome in. Hail to the podcast brought to you by Maize and Blue Review. We cover Michigan for the Rivals Network. Means you can find us at michigan.rivals.com. I talk about having a loaded show a lot, but folks, we have a loaded show today, and it's going to be all Michigan football recruiting. Big weekend, kind of a collision of a few big weeks. We've got some commitments. We've got some FUTURECASTs. We've got some trending picks. The anxiety around SHERRONE Moore's first recruiting cycle is quickly fading. A lot of excitement in Ann Arbor and around this fan base. We're going to get into it and go through the whole list with our Intel Insider publisher, Mr. Maize and Blue Review himself. Beard getting thick, looking good. Josh Henschke, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's good to have you back here in one piece. So hopefully you can stay that way for a while.
I'm not sure if I'm only one piece, but I'm back.
People have been fiending for some hail to the podcast. So, we gotta give the people what they want.
Thank you. It is good to be back. We got one more little deal in the road, and then we should be good. So I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about this stuff. So Josh, lead us off obviously with our good friend and sponsor of the show, and then folks who are joining us live here, make sure you're in the comments, being a part of the conversation. If you want to ask about specific recruits, I promise you we've got them all listed out, so we'll hit on them. So try and stick with the guys we're talking about, and then when we get towards the end, we can circle back on a few guys. But yeah, Josh, tell us about our good buddy, and then let's get into this.
Yep, absolutely. As always, our show is sponsored by Wes Romberger at My Perfect Franchise. So he's been a good friend of the show. Happy to have him. So again, and before I get into the spiel here, his services are 100% free. Like you can't go wrong with 100% free if you're looking for a new change of pace. So would you like to escape corporate America for good? Maybe you'd like to start a business on the side and keep your corporate gig. Wes can help. Wes is a franchise consultant as well as a business owner and can help you find a franchise that fits your skill set, financial requirements, how much time you have to commit, and more. A franchise is a business startup and operations kit, perfect for those with general business skills but who may not have specific knowledge on starting and running a small business. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help you if you have any questions about business ownership. You can reach him by phone at 512-970-7478. Again, that's 512-970-7478, or see him on the web at myperfectfranchise.net/aboutwest. And again, thank you, West, for being a loyal sponsor to the show. We appreciate you.
Yeah, loyal for a long time. One of those day one guys.
Yep.
West is the man. Absolutely. I'm going to do one more shameless plug before we get going for ourselves. Maize and Blue Review, again, michigan.rivals.com. We are running a promo, and it's almost like Josh knows what to do in terms of timing. Right? Yeah. Not a better time to join, obviously, with Michigan recruiting really picking up right now. There's going to be a lot of things. I say this on almost every single show. A lot of the things we talk about here today, we've been talking about inside the den in our message board community. So for right now, if you were to join us at michigan.rivals.com, you can join for free until fall camp concludes. So that'll get you through this whole summer recruiting cycle, some of the summer football intel right into fall camp kicking off. And then, of course, at that point, we would hope we had earned you and you're sticking around. I always say, in the comments, you'll see a bunch of our subscribers. Ask them if you think it's worth it or not. We're really proud of the community we've built over there and the folks that are a part of it. And we'd love to have you be a part of it as well. If you want to give us a shot, now is the chance. Free until fall camp. Promo code UMREPEAT. If you go to Josh or I's Twitter, we both have been tweeting about it. There's a link that takes you right to the sign-up page with the promo already entered. Gets you in and out pretty quick. So, all right, let's get into it. Loaded show. We are going to lead off with, I guess, technically old news at this point, but we weren't around last week. On the last pod, we had talked about the Michigan QB recruiting for 2026 and how it looked like Brady Hart was going to be the guy things were trending towards, with Noah Grubbs going to Notre Dame and then Will Griffin to Florida. And then that moved very quickly. Brady Hart, indeed, the man for Michigan in the 2026 class. I did a fact or fiction for Rivals where they asked me if I thought this was the biggest recruit of the SHERRONE Moore era. My gut initially was to say Nate Marshall, but then the more I thought about it, for Michigan to get their QB this early,
Yeah.
Right. With what we've dealt with in the past with Dante Moore and Bryce Underwood, for Kirk Campbell to go 3 straight here. Right. We've talked about his recruiting and his success, and to get a big win over Clemson. Right. When we talked about Hart last time, things felt like they were trading towards Clemson, and then Hart comes to Ann Arbor. Josh, I know you'll get into some notes that you kind of broke about that visit. He goes to Columbus, gets an offer, and same day he's making the phone call, and he is Michigan's quarterback, first commit of the 2026 class.
Yeah. And he's pretty open about, it being Clemson too. I mean, he basically told, I believe it was our John Garcia. He's like, yeah, it was Clemson until
before
it was
the
Michigan.
visit.
Yeah, it was Clemson until it was Michigan. So, yeah, I mean, anytime you're talking about a fringe 5-star kid, a top 50 player in the class, it's a big deal. And I would agree probably right now that he's probably the most important recruit in the Sherrone Moore era, because I think when you look at quarterbacks at Michigan, and obviously I'm not trying to compare anyone to JJ because he's in his own elite standing, but when you have elite quarterback play, Michigan can do good things. Michigan can do whatever they want to accomplish. So I think adding, and not to mention adding the first player in your 26 class as a quarterback of that caliber, you're really starting off on the right foot in the recruiting class, and you're really starting off strong. And yeah, it just everything just kind of snowballed into what it is now. Had a really strong multi-day unofficial visit to campus. Him and Kirk Campbell have been tight for a long time. And again, credit to Kirk Campbell for just continuing to destroy the state of Florida when it comes to recruiting quarterback. I'll take Florida quarterbacks any day of the week. But yeah, I mean, there was kind of this confidence heading into the visit that they could make a move. And then there was confidence coming out that they were going to get him. And then, obviously he was in Columbus when he got the offer from Ohio State and all that stuff. And yeah, it basically you have JJ McCarthy to thank. Not all of it, obviously. I mean, the staff had to do something, but JJ McCarthy and the JJ McCarthy family, his dad and mom were both on the visit, in the unofficial visit, and they were there, with the Hart family. I know, the McCarthy family really loved Jaden Davis's family and Carter Smith's family, as well as Brady Hart's family as well. So during that camp visit, whatever you want to call it, to Ohio State, JJ gets on FaceTime and calls Brady Hart and kind of tells him, hey, if you want to go somewhere where you're going to be challenged, where you want to be the best, Michigan's the place to be. And, shortly after that, while on campus, while in the middle of this visit, well, I wouldn't say in the middle, probably after the fact, right, but while in Columbus, he calls the staff and commits, and then things kind of, snowballed from there. He kind of wanted to wait a little bit to commit like later on in the week, but since the cat was out of the bag already, he wasted no time in making it official. So yeah, I mean, just a really good job by the staff to get this done. Practically, I'd say, steal him away from Clemson, because yeah, I mean, he was basically signed, sealed, and delivered to Clemson. So I think for me personally, this is going to be a really interesting conversation for the next year or so between, the Noah Grubbs, the Will Griffin and Brady Smigel. They're very good quarterbacks. All of those guys listed are very good quarterbacks. I know Brady Hart and Noah Grubbs have the same quarterback trainer, so they're together a lot. So and they're forever going to be linked, because they're going to be in the same recruiting class. They're all going to be judged on terms of where they are rising, falling on the recruiting rankings and things like that. So yeah, I mean, the conversation and the discussion is going to go on for the next year and beyond of, who's the best quarterback in the class. And, obviously I can't even begin to tell you who the best quarterback is. I mean, if you take it from just face value, I mean, Brady Smigel is the higher rated quarterback, but that doesn't mean everything. So it's going to be an interesting discussion, but I do believe Michigan got their guy. They got the guy they wanted, despite Noah Grubbs committing to Notre Dame. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion, but Michigan getting out in front and getting their quarterback as their first commit in 26, that's going to be that's huge. That's huge for them. That really sets the tone for the class, and you got a leader that can kind of lead from the front. So it's just a good job by the staff.
And that's where I was going to go in terms of tone setter and leader, right? The JJ thread we've been hearing about, really back to Jaden Davis with Carter, with Brady now, is the intangibles, is the leadership. Hart has already been out there recruiting, and by all signs, it's going to be a monster recruiter for Michigan moving forward. On the field, there's a big reason Clemson wanted him. I think the number one comp I've been hearing from people that know football better than me is Trevor Lawrence. When you see him standing back in the pocket, he's got that vibe. He's got a little bit of an elongated throw right now. Probably want to see him shorten that up. But I mean, all the skills are there. So yeah, at this point, Michigan's got a good trio in a row. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the years and who wins jobs and who succeeds or whatever. But, quarterback recruiting was a concern in years past, right? And it feels good. Just props again, Kirk Campbell, man, on the trail, getting the job done and having this guy early, a good fit. I think it's just going to be ball rolling for Michigan. And we're seeing that happen with the 2025 class now. We talked about, with a lot of the concern around Michigan and SHERRONE more, aside from the transition to the coaching staff and the timing of it, SHERRONE is really rebuilding not just Michigan's recruiting staff, right? But literally the way they recruit, the way they communicate with the kids, the way they handle visits. And we've seen big hires at the top. We've seen a lot of guys come in from the bottom and just kind of meet in the middle. And now that we're here in the summer, dead period starts tomorrow. But the culmination of it really has been the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's what we said was, hey, if we come into the summer and we don't start seeing some dominoes fall, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. Well, dominoes have been falling, right? So recent commits on the defensive side of the ball, obviously Jalen Williams, who not only committed, but just shut down recruitment, canceled his visit to Miami, Tennessee, Nebraska. That's a big get on the field and off because of his relationship with, again, arguably Michigan's biggest recruit, Nate Marshall.
Yep.
Williams is probably, I don't know what, he's got that kind of that Chris Jenkins to him, right? That tweener. He's a good pass rusher as a defensive end, but he's probably not going to be a stand-up edge in this defense. Probably going to find his way into the interior moving forward. You don't have to squint hard to see how Williams fits into this scheme, though.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Michigan probably could have landed him even earlier, before the coaching change kind of, offset some things. And again, that's one of the major reasons why there was such a lag when it comes to Michigan recruiting, is that you got so many guys that you had to start over with.
Yeah.
New position coaches, technically two new coordinators, even though, Campbell is a known commodity on the staff, but, there's a lot of ground that you have to make up and build up relationships with guys that, aren't necessarily, you take Lamar Morgan, for example. I mean, he's not recruiting this type of talent at Louisiana State or not Louisiana State, U of L or wherever. I forget where he came from, but some school, the Raging Cajuns or wherever he was from.
Louisiana, yeah, Raging Cajuns.
Yeah, he's not recruiting this type of talent. So, these doors have to be open. And Jalen Williams, fortunately, was interested in the program. I mean, he knew all about it with Mike Elston was recruiting him, and probably was close to committing, before the new year to Elston and the staff. But again, you get Scruggs in there for a minute, and then you have to start over again with Espo, with some Lou Esposito, and now here we are. I think. Esposito's really showing his recruiting chops here. He's locked down Bobby Kanka. Jalen Williams, obviously Nathaniel Marshall came out of nowhere. So yeah, I think this is another example of just, you know, Espo really hitting his stride and finding his groove. And this is all a positive, as you said, with Dave Marshall, you know, with Auburn biting at their, you know, nipping at their heels, so to speak. But I think this weekend, you know, likely did a lot more good for Michigan's standing. And yeah, I just think these past couple of weeks are kind of just a culmination of, as John kind of mentioned here, you know, Moore and staff have settled in, and that's really what it is. I mean, they've settled in, they've hit their stride, they've beefed up the recruiting department. So there's you know, resources available now that these guys aren't getting stretched so thin. So you can kind of put a lot into guys now, and now you're seeing dividends pay off. And Jalen Williams is definitely one of those guys where, you know, honestly, Michigan had to come back from and get in there. I mean, they did have the lead at one point, and I definitely see a scenario where it slipped because Elston leaving. But, you know, again, you settle in, you get the guys you want. And, you know, now Jalen Williams is going to turn into an excellent recruiter. I mean, if you follow him on Twitter, I mean, he's all about it
already. Yep.
Net positive for Michigan for sure.
I don't know if this is the right spot to say this, but I will. I think, you know, a lot of people have asked me what's different with Sherrone Moore. And aside from the logistics, he has been walking this line of, look, I need to sell that this is still Michigan and the success of the last 3 years is going to continue. Yep. The foundation and the things that we did to make us 3-time Big Ten champions, national champions, development U at this point, right? Those things are going to be the same, but also this is Sherrone Moore's program, and this is, I'm my own man.
Yep.
Right. To split a little bit from Harbaugh. And he's doing that. And we're seeing it with recruiting because he's very involved and he's very hands-on. And we're hearing from multiple recruits. Look, they're meeting with their position coaches. Obviously, they have players that are on the visits. There's a lot of secondary folks that they're talking to. But Sherrone Moore is spending a lot of time with families.
Yep.
And that was something Jim did too. Jim was always close with the families. But if you've paid attention the last couple of years, Jim was going to California a ton. Right. And Sherrone was kind of the guy that was the main recruiter, head coach, whatever. The 4-for-4 picture from the last recruiting cycle. I always point out, you know, Jaden Davis, Prescorn. I'm going to mess up the other two. Marshall, Blake Frazier.
Yep.
Sherrone Moore was right in the middle of that.
Yep.
And he is just, again, the words I keep hearing, he's genuine, he's sincere, he's X's and O's. They're not doing flashy. They're not parking a bunch of Lambos. Like it's just, and it's really working. These guys are vibing with what Moore's doing, and they're buying what this program is selling in terms of what's old and staying and what's new and going to be different. So,
yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that because I'm going to let you in on a little inside baseball here. I talked to someone who plans on publicly announcing his commitment here in the next day or so. And what you just said is exactly what he said. You know,
it's been a theme
that, you know, they're not selling me a dream. They're not selling me money. They're selling me development, and they're selling the program. And that's what you said basically in a nutshell is exactly what this kid told me. So, yeah, I expect this kid to drop here in the next day or two. Probably not today. I know Sherrone.
I know he tweeted. I'm like, please don't do something during the show.
Yeah, I know Sherrone just tweeted something. You know, the fourth eyeball. He's one of the 4 eyeballs, but this isn't the 4th eyeball. So I think we have a pretty good idea of who it is. But yeah, this kid basically was like exactly what you just said is what sold him on Michigan. So. There is a, I know everyone talks about NIL and you know, people playing or paying players and doing all this, but there is a lane that Michigan can travel through and continue to be successful and still do their thing without having to pay or overpay or drop a bag. I mean, yeah, the kids are going to get paid with NIL. They're going to get paid with NIL at Michigan. They're just not going to do the pay for play stuff. But there is a lane that Michigan is traveling down. I mean, look at it. I mean, we have tangible evidence now to say, like, we're not just like blowing smoke up people's asses, be like, hey, just wait, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's happening now. We're here. And so I think there's a legitimate lane that Michigan can travel down and still get the guys they want to get. I mean, yeah, they'll probably miss on some guys and have to go down lower on their recruiting board, but they're going to get the guys, they're going to develop them. And, I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to be winning national championships, every year, but, more often than not, this method that has worked is going to continue to be successful.
Well, and we know too, I don't want to get into the weeds on this too much. In terms of those conversations with freshmen around NIL, they're different. That's what I'll say. They're different than they used to be. Jared Wangler has confirmed that they're talking with recruits now, right? Mm-hmm. And involving somebody like JJ, who left Ann Arbor a millionaire.
Yep.
Like, let's be clear, right? Having him speak with Brady and giving them the tangible, here's what's going to happen, it is valuable to me. We could do a whole nother show about that. So
I agree with John here too. I mean, obviously winning helps a lot. I mean, if you're not winning, it's probably not going to work. But yeah,
right. Sherrone's going to have to. He's going to have to prove what he's selling is
right.
the same on the field, obviously. So that's going to be huge too. So
absolutely.
All right, Kainoa Winston, which not to dog our folks at Rivals, but we are lagging on his ranking. Yep. This guy is an absolute stud out of Washington, D.C. Felt like he was probably going to be heading over to Penn State. We'll get into this as we go, but Moore's been kind of putting Franklin in the locker as of late when it comes to Penn State. So, look, when I watch this dude, he's an obvious fit. We talk about versatile guys in the secondary all the time. He can line up at corner. He can line up at safety. He can line up at nickel. He's big. He's fast. He's physical. He can get interceptions. John read my mind. When I make comps, I'm not predicting necessarily the type of career I think someone is going to have, but when I think of the kind of player they are, I saw Sainer still 2.0 when I watched Winston. And in a way, in terms of measurables and metrics and the fact he's going to start day one playing that kind of role versus a guy like Sainer still who really built up over time, had to switch sides, obviously, from offense to defense. Look, the man is a leader in what he did with other players as well. I mean, God, Sainer still's, in terms of secondary at Michigan, is arguably on Mount Rushmore, right? Like, what a career he had. Yeah. But just talking from a skill set standpoint, again, like Williams, I watched Winston and I'm like, oh, what a good fit. Huge get for Michigan. Lamar Morgan making noise, man.
Yeah, criminally underrated on Rivals, and that's okay. Sometimes it happens, and we're allowed to call him out. I mean, respectfully,
he might not have gone to a certain camp or who knows. Yeah.
Respectfully, I think we have him grossly underrated, but that's okay. I mean, that's what his senior season is going to be for. And I do think he'll get his 4-star bump here eventually. But for me, when I look at his tape, I see, and I've put this out there, I think I see a Khaleke Hudson in there too. So if you can get, and again, I'm not saying he's going to have the same career, but the same versatility,
physical,
the same body type. If you're ending up anywhere between a Mike Sainristil and a Khaleke Hudson, I think you're going to have a pretty good career at Michigan. So, and again, I'm not saying that, he's going to be the next Mikey, he's going to be the next Khaleke, but if he can kind of, replicate that, and now Michigan's working with a scheme that can put people in far better positions that they have been before. Almost like they can fine tune individual players within their schemes. I think these guys are going to have a better long-term career than most. So excellent job by the staff. Wink Martindale had a hand in this one too. He's not going to be your supreme grinder recruiter, but he's a guy that kids like. Kids like him. Has stuff to show these kids like, hey, this is where we see you. This is how you can fit and all that kind of good stuff.
He's just a funny dude too.
Yeah, he's
charismatic. People are drawn to him, and the nice thing about his NFL career, I think he does it casually, but he could say stuff like, I remember when I was coaching Ray Lewis and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think he just throws that stuff out there. Like, yeah, Ed Reed used to say that all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's valuable. That's valuable too, obviously. But yeah, I think it's a really good job by the staff of getting in on these guys. I wouldn't say at the 11th hour, but guys that are pretty close to figuring out where they want to go. And then all of a sudden, here's Michigan coming out of nowhere, getting these guys and plucking them and shoving people in the lockers in the process. Because, James Franklin isn't the first guy to get shoved in the locker by Sherrone Moore this cycle. So, and there's another guy that we'll talk about here shortly coming up that, that he just got shoved into a locker for. So, yeah, I think, again, it's just a great job by the staff, and I'm gonna repeat myself like 8,000 times today, but
no,
it's just Michigan, the staff finding its groove. They're in a groove now. They've found it. They're on a heater. They're on a heater. All of these guys are on a heater right now, so that's kind of the good thing. So, I would not be shocked if you're looking at Winston being one of the top players out of this recruiting class. I think he's that good personally. I really do.
I like his tape a lot.
Yeah.
Real quick, guys, I've seen a few of you asking questions about players that are not commits yet. Like I said, hang with us. We're going through everybody. So if you've got questions about where some folks are trending, we are going to get to that. I've got a couple more commits I want to talk about, and then we'll get to that. Last point on the groove thing, something I've heard from a couple high school coaches, and I know, again, just kind of a theme that's out there. Because the offensive staff didn't turn over very much, and even, you bring in a guy like Kasula, who's familiar with the program, and other coaches here, obviously, there's a continuity and a brotherhood that exists there. And on the defensive side of the ball, despite it being an all-new staff, again, Wink and his bond to the style of defense and the program, obviously, Brian Jean-Marie has been here before, whatever, but there's a continuity with this group. The staff is linked, right? Like they're just all on the same page. They all get along really well. And that's toxic in a good way, right? Like not every program's got that. It's just part of it. So 2025 Thunder and Lightning, this has become a thing. Michigan seems to be going after their Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards duo every cycle if they can. I'm going to ask you a question in a second about this possibly being a 3-person class, but we'll get into that in a minute. I say Corum and Edwards, but this is a little bit different because these are both big dudes.
Yeah.
Right. So Jasper Parker flat out said the staff kind of pitched him on a Donovan Edwards-like role. He's a Louisiana native who was originally recruited by Hart and Halford. So this wasn't like a lost in transition. He's kind of been on Michigan's radar the whole time. When I watched him, he's a bigger back. I said I almost kind of got a Haskins vibe from the way that he ran.
That's not bad, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty good shout.
And he can be a pass catcher. So that's kind of the Edwards comp that exists there. Ron Bellamy's alma mater in Louisiana. So he was a factor in this recruitment as well. Mm-hmm. And then today, Donovan Johnson drops. And this is a polarizing pick for some folks. Obviously, started out at Georgia, had a really, really breakout year, then transferred IMG, didn't play a ton as a sophomore, tore his ACL in the spring and hasn't played since. So, he was a top 50 recruit at one point. He was being recruited by all the biggest programs down south. They've kind of paused and maybe we're waiting to the fall to push further on his recruitment. Michigan showed faith in him, which if he does have a breakout senior year, I think it's going to pay dividends. If these schools try coming back around, he's going to be like, hey, you didn't want me before, right? Right. He's not Blake Corum because he's 6'1", 200 and probably 20 pounds, but he's more of that twitchy back, making cuts, more physical, breaking tackles, has that kind of quick burst to get you those extra yards. So he's more of the Thunder player. But hey, in my opinion, taking him, when you do see him run, I think I really like his tape. It's a low risk grab. Look, ACL tears aren't the enders they used to be. He's a young dude. We'll see how he is come the fall. But that's the current running back class following 2024. Obviously, the additional Jordan Marshall, Micah Kaapana. That's a pretty good foursome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really love the fact that Michigan's dipping into the state of Louisiana too. I mean, they're not Jasper Parker's not the only one that they're going to go after. I mean, they had another kid from the
Louisiana is so underrated in terms of quality.
it's a
That's why
very
LSU is so good every year.
Yep. Very talent rich area. I mean, they just hosted Jacob Washington this weekend too, from the same program. So, yeah, I mean, I like, yeah, Donovan Johnson. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him because obviously the torn ACL, I guess I mean, I don't think I've seen a college player not be the same type of person after not same type of player after an ACL tear. It takes a bit to bounce back from, but you know, you're talking about a top 50 kid here. I mean, you're not talking about some fringe 3-star that tore his ACL. I mean, this kid is talented. You know, yeah, he's going to have to show a little bit, you know, of what he had in the past because of the injury. But I like what this kid brings, man. I really do. I think he's just that bruising type that Michigan really likes.
Well, when you said he's a really good kid too, like you were really
great kid.
Similar with Marshall, he's just for a young dude, you're really impressed by his character.
Yeah, great kid. Jasper is too, but yeah, Donovan's a great kid, and yeah, I think they're gonna. He's a culture fit too, so I think he's gonna be just fine. You know, obviously we'll kind of see. I mean, he plays pretty good competition at IMG, so you know this will be a good year if he's back 100% to really see where he's at from a physical standpoint. But yeah, I mean, you've got kind of the best of both worlds here with Jasper Parker and Donovan Johnson, and that's just the theme that's going to continue on that Michigan's had for a few years now. So, you know, I also like the fact that Jasper Parker catches passes. You know, I think Michigan getting more running backs involved in the passing game is going to be good for them. You know, hopefully we get to see that a little bit more with Donovan Edwards this year. But yeah, I mean, good for you know, good for Ron Bellamy here getting into the state of Louisiana and kind of flexing his muscles here a little bit. I really like what Michigan has done these past 2 cycles at running back. I don't want to call Marshall underrated, but you know, the rest of the pack, you know, he's obviously leading from the front, but the rest of the pack are a little bit on the underrated side. And I think, you know, that's where Michigan does their best work is kind of getting these underrated guys that they can develop. So, you know, this would be a big job for Tony Alford to develop these guys. I mean, he's known as a recruiter. Can he develop these guys? I think this is going to be a really good test. I mean, yeah, Ben Hall too is probably part of that equation too. He's still relatively young. So, development pieces, as a 4-star, I think you're fine with that. I think you take both of those guys. I mean, yeah, would you like a Jordan Davison? Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, probably. But
so I was going to ask you about him.
It's okay. I mean, it's okay. I think there's 26 elite 26 guys that they're in on too.
Yeah.
So, I have no complaints about taking Donovan Johnson I don't even want to call it a flyer because he's not a flyer kid. He's a
flyer in the sense that you could end up with one of the best running backs in this class.
Right.
Like, that's the flyer. Like, you're taking a really good player that even if he's not the same post-injury, he's still really good. But if he is, like,
torn ACLs, I don't want to downplay it, but like torn ACLs these days are kind of like, you know, they're fixed and they're healed so quickly. I mean, Ronnie Bell was arguably faster from his ACL injury. So, you know, I would be concerned if it was like a broken ankle or like, you know, ACL, MCL, total tears. But
what a reference.
Oh man, yeah, that is a deep cut, Steve. But it's true though. I mean, you're not wrong. These ACLs, I don't want to downplay it and then not say, oh, ACLs, nothing. But like, they are much easier to heal from these days, especially when as a young kid, than they would have been in the past. So is it a death sentence for him? Nah, I don't think so. I think he'll show this year, especially, that, you know, he's worthy of that former top 50 ranking before, he had a little bit of a bump in the road.
I do want to talk about him real quick, and I know anything we say here could be outdated by tomorrow morning. But with Jordan Davison, it did feel like maybe that was trending towards a decision pretty quick. Ohio State already has 2 running backs, but felt like they were in a comfortable position that he was going to go there as well. Oregon, involved too.
Yep.
I've had Ohio State people tell me they think Michigan's a serious threat still, that with Johnson being kind of a wild card, that they're still in it there. Obviously, he has a bond with Alford. I'm not here to tell you I think Michigan's going to get him. I've thought he's going to stay out west. I thought Oregon would end up being the pick, kind of the best of both worlds, and not joining a 3-person class at OSU. But if you add Davison to this group, man, have you heard anything to? I mean, I considered it dead. I'm not saying I think Michigan's going to get him, but Michigan smoke that we get from Michigan people tends to be a little bit more positive. Obviously, they're always going to feel better about their spot.
Yeah.
But when it's OSU people telling me, I'm starting like, huh. But again, I don't know. Maybe I've gone from 0 to 10%, but just kind of interested what you're thinking with Davis and if you've heard anything about that still being in play.
I think at one point Michigan had a really good shot. Now I don't think so anymore. I know Michigan did a really good job with Mom on one of his unofficial visits. But again, if the kid, doesn't want to be there, I mean, you can't,
right.
Selling Mom is good, but only good to a certain degree. But yeah, I think it's either Oregon or Ohio State at this point. I would be kind of surprised if it was anyone but Ohio State. I think, maybe if Michigan got in a little earlier, maybe we could be talking about something totally different. But I mean, at least credit Alford for getting them on, a spot at the table, I suppose. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset about losing Davison anyway, because I don't think you weren't getting him before. And you're not.
Yeah, you were only even sniffing because you hired Alford.
Right. And you're not getting him after, but at least you had a shot and could swing for the fences a little bit. So, we'll kind of see how that works out. I think Michigan would be fine with these 2 backs. And I think they kind of, they wanted to wait a little bit on Donovan Johnson to kind of see how that Davison situation worked out. But I think now we're at that situation where, if they took Donovan Johnson, that they're probably that pretty much shows you how they feel about their shot with Davison too. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think
that's a big dude, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be 3 really big backs.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be surprised if they took 3 backs, but hey, I mean, if you got a kid like that knocking at your door, you make room for him. But yeah, I'm not too optimistic there. I wasn't super optimistic to begin with. I mean, I think Michigan did have a shot because of the selling the Mom on the visit and having a good relationship there. But that always kind of felt like an uphill battle to me. And we'll kind of see. I was told that he was planning on releasing a final 2 at the end of the month.
I think we'll hear something from him in the next day or 2, I would imagine, just based on murmurs. So in true Hail to the Podcast fashion, with you putting so much water on that smoke, he will commit to Michigan tomorrow. So but anyway, Parker and Johnson in for sure. Happy about that duo and Michigan's running back room again. So all right, another commit, and then we're going to get into some trending stuff. Again, I've seen some folks asking questions. We've got a lot of names to go through. So, Caden Strayhorn, Michigan has its center. Very impressive offer list. Also over at IMG. Michigan's always kind of been around IMG, but I feel like I've talked about IMG more than in recent years. They're really making a lot of moves with folks over there. So, obviously, Michigan State legacy. His father, Jason Strayhorn, not only a former Michigan State captain, not only a Michigan State Board of Education member, but Michigan State's color commentator on the radio with George Blaha. So I put a tweet out, and I'm going to say this again. We've seen some ugly stuff with parents making recruitments about them or having very strong emotions about where their son may or may not go, especially if they have a preference with a legacy. Jason wasn't wearing any maize and blue in the family pick, but he was standing there, he was smiling, supporting his kid. And it sounds like, based on some stuff Caden said and we've heard from Michigan State folks, again, we could probably dedicate a whole show to MSU recruiting. I'm not really sure what they're doing, not going after kids, because I know their NIL is a mess post SHERRONE Moore and the Spartan Dog for Life thing getting shut down and all of that. But to be like, oh, you have a Bama offer, I'm not even going to waste my time talking to you. when you're a legacy like this, a strong offensive line center, it's just bizarre, man.
Yeah.
Really bizarre. But MSU Michigan stuff aside, again, Michigan's got a center. This is, again, when you just talk about perfect fit and you watch this dude run, blocking, interior offensive lineman, and you've got Grant Newsome and then SHERRONE Moore at the head, with Michigan's success on the offensive line. They're getting guys. Not a shock. But
yeah, and apparently I did speak to someone on the MSU side. They did stop recruiting him for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess, I don't even want to speculate, but they stopped recruiting him. So
I think I don't want to misapply credit. I thought it was your buddy Isaiah that he talked to, that he literally said that they talked about his offer list. That's their angle. If we don't think we can compete with these big, because if you look at who they're going after, if they go get somebody from California, they're not being recruited by any of the California schools. They're competing with Arizona and Boise State, stuff like that. So, that was your whole point of hiring John Smith, was the West Coast connection. And then they're battling a bunch of MAC schools because that's who they want to compete against, I guess. I don't know. Bizarre.
Whatever. That's going to be an awkward Thanksgiving dinner. But, hey,
awkward Thanksgiving. Imagine when he's calling the game.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Also true. Look, it's good for SHERRONE and getting in there, and I think it's funny from a standpoint haha, Michigan State type of funny.
Yeah, it's good rivalry.
This kid can play.
Absolutely.
This kid can play. He's a Novi, Michigan native who moved out to IMG, is your starting center as their starting center, I think, as a junior, or might have been a sophomore year too. No, sorry, junior year. It was a starter for IMG at center. And we'll try out at center at Michigan. I think, this kid can play, and anytime you can tap into the IMG pipeline, you do it. That's twice now on the offense. Donovan Johnson and Strayhorn that you tapped in on the 25 class. I think, man, you can see the promise there. And the way Michigan develops, you don't really have to. I'm not really worried about who they take at offensive lineman, honestly. If they've got some promise there, you just know they're going to be developed. And I'm really curious to see what Grant Newsome is going to do with some of these guys that they have now. And I think this year is going to be really, really telling. Again, I think it's the offer list. Anytime that you look at a kid and you look at his ranking, or you look at his star rating, just look at the offer list. The offer list speaks for itself. You can say the same about Donovan Johnson, and I don't care what your what the fan base is saying. Oh, he doesn't have a committable offer or whatever. The offers speak for themselves. The offer lists speak for themselves. So again, anytime you can get a kid that Alabama wants or may have wanted at one point, Ohio State may have wanted at one point, you absolutely take him. And with Michigan's pedigree of developing offensive linemen, I don't think you can't go wrong. So again, I think it's extra funny because it's an MSU legacy. I'm sure it's going to be awkward for Jason at some point. But man, I mean, you like what you see from Strayhorn, absolutely. I mean, there's promise there, and you can kind of see the overall development. So all good things, and I really like what Michigan is doing with this class. I mean, their star rating average is through the roof right now. I think it's
been quality over quantity.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of the highest in the nation, honestly.
Yeah, it was top 5.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see the quantity come in.
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah, there's some spots where, like, I put a tweet out today. I was kind of trolling OSU fans because I couldn't believe the stuff they were saying to Donovan Johnson and his commitment. And I posted, I had JJ and Donovan Edwards and Aiden Hutchinson and Rod Moore, and I had the famous quotes of, "We didn't even offer him, and he wasn't a take, and the staff took the better player," and they took that as like, "Oh, well, we didn't want him. We didn't." I'm like, that's not the point. The point is, all these guys you consider recruiting wins because you want to be like, "Oh, we weren't really going after him," are beating you on the field, right? And at this point, it's been multiple years where Michigan's kind of earned the right to be like, okay, right? Like, I trust that you're going to develop this dude. I do. So in the case of Donovan, and then, MSU is kind of a weird thing or whatever, but like getting into these battles, like, yeah, if you want to say Strayhorn's not rated as high as you would like or whatever, again, like you said, you look at the offer list and then you just look at what the staff has done. You got to trust them. And there's some positions where they've earned that. Just straight up, they've earned it because of what they've done in terms of finding prospects and development.
Yep.
So real quick, I've got him in another spot, but touch on him real quick. Speaking of Michigan State, Bobby KANKA, who was he the first commit? He might have been, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Defensive tackle. I think he was the first commit in the 25 class. Had been in there for a while. And then, he was talking to MSU, taking visits to MSU, took an official the last week. Felt like maybe he'd be heading that way. He was here this weekend, and one trip to East Lansing, one trip back to Ann Arbor, and done. He shut down his recruitment. He will stick with Michigan. So,
yeah, that was kind of the expectation going into the visit. I think Michigan just kind of in between the change over from from Jim Harbaugh to Sherrone Moore, from Elston leaving to Scruggs coming in and leaving, and then Espo coming in. I think KANKA kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. I mean, he always wanted to be at Michigan. I mean, this visit was kind of this visit to Michigan State and the Tennessee flirtation was kind of just him protecting his own ass, really. I mean, He didn't want to be burned. And it kind of always felt like just Michigan just kind of needed to just sit down with him and hash everything out. And not that there was any problems, but just kind of just.
No, but there at least felt like rumors that maybe, I don't want to use the word processed, but like that's what people were suggesting, that maybe his place in the class at Michigan wasn't as steady anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
both sides of that,
They weren't talking to him at all at one point, but I don't necessarily think. I just think that was kind of a product of like, hey, this kid's locked in. Let's get our own backyard shut up.
It's pretty true.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So I just think it was kind of the point where Espo just needed to get in there, and it helped when he visited his school. That helped a lot to kind of ease some fears, and I think that's kind of what it came down to at the end of the day, is just kind of easing some fears, answering questions, and getting it figured out. And here we are. He shuts down his recruitment, as kind of the expectation was from the start here, that they just needed to talk it out and do what they needed to do. So I think the kid's got some promise. I think he's obviously needs development, and that'll happen. But 4-star kid in your backyard, and really fringe top 200, 250 guy. I mean, I don't think he's a guy that you let slip. So, and I think they realize that too.
Well, and I'm going to be interested to see what happens on the field. but and obviously depends how long Wink is here.
Right.
But I do think we're going to see more 3 DT. I mean, obviously one of them is his defensive end technically, but more similar to what Baltimore did. A lot more of those 5-man fronts with the stand-up edge, 3 defensive tackles. So, they're going to have you after defensive line. But
yeah.
All right, those are recent commits that have dropped. Let's get into the trending stuff. You have been putting in future casts left and right. My head's already spinning here. We're gonna get more into some trending guys that maybe you're even close to putting future casts in.
Yeah.
Guy you've had for a little while, speaking of defensive tackle, has been Maxwell Roy. You've had a future cast in for him for a little bit. Linebacker Chase Taylor, guy from Georgia. Again, we've kind of had that in for a little bit. He was here this weekend. Back to the locker stuffing of James Franklin. We'd heard some positive things about Andrew Olesh maybe a month ago or two, a few weeks back. But again, Pennsylvania native, he's been to Penn State a bunch. Just kind of felt like it was going to be tough to get him out of there. That's this weekend trending very heavily. You put in a future cast for him to go to Michigan. And then another Louisiana player, receiver, Ron Bellamy, a guy that gets a lot of slack from this fan base, Philip Wright. Another guy that you put in. You can kind of go across these names here who you want to talk about. I'm going to tell you the guy that sticks out to me a bunch is Olesh because, again, I'm not saying this is the kind of career he's going to have, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of a wide receiver who has just grown into a tight end and can line up outside, can go deep, can do short hands, blah, blah. He's Colston Loveland 2.0, man. Like their skill sets are incredibly similar. And again, getting him out of Pennsylvania, just a monster win if he ends up picking Michigan. But.
Yeah. Andrew Olesh. I mean, that tight end class that they have right now of Eli Owens and
yes.
Andrew Olesh is a lot of raw talent that needs to be refined and will be refined. I mean, Olesh is just going to be another it's just going to be a really good tight end at Michigan. It's just hard to not be like, oh, you're a tight end, bam, you're going to be good. I mean, it's really hard to not be a good tight end at Michigan because of the way they develop and the way they utilize that position. I think both him and Eli Owens are no different there. As far as he was in over the weekend.
Sorry.
I don't remember that. Was that really that bad?
I don't remember.
I mean, I don't know what I well, okay.
I'll have to go back and watch this. Hey, it is more fun to talk about guys that have committed.
Oh yeah.
That's for sure. But
yeah, I mean, it's just, I can only say, just wait. It's only a matter of time. So many times.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
You get to a point where you're like, look, we don't carry water, right? We've said that a bunch, but we're trying when you know what's happening behind the scenes and you're hearing these things and you're like, guys, just wait, it's gonna be good. I promise, things are coming. And then you don't really have anything tangible to talk about. Yeah, it gets kind of like, ugh. So yeah, it's nice to have some of these things start to come to fruition. But
no, we have something tangible to show now. But Olesh is going to be good. Maxwell Roy. I mean, well, let me go back to Olesh. I'm not sure when he's going to drop, but it should be relatively soon. Maxwell Roy is another guy that had a really good Ohio State visit, was in town this weekend, and I think that kind of evened things out. There, I still think he ends up in Michigan. I don't have a day or anything like that of when he could possibly drop, but Philip Wright.
Sorry, I was just gonna say real quick. If Williams is kind of your tweener, right, the guy that's going to move into the interior, Maxwell Roy that's your DT, man. That's that interior dude. He is just an absolute stud up the middle, man. That's again another perfect fit. Blah blah blah, but. He just drops right into that Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Chris. I know Chris Jenkins is more of the DE, but that role they built where you've got a guy that can stuff the run and get after the quarterback on the inside. Roy's it, dude. He's as good as it gets.
100%. I'm excited about Philip Wright personally. This kid is a burner. I mean, a Roman Wilson type of guy.
Like you said earlier, Louisiana wide receiver.
Yep, Louisiana. Man, it's just yeah, I don't know. When's the last time Michigan's even got multiple people out of the state of Louisiana? And ever? Probably never. I mean, I don't think Michigan got anyone else out of with Rob Bellamy in that class from the state of Louisiana. I mean,
Amorion Walker's Louisiana, right?
Yep. But they didn't get anyone else out of Louisiana. I mean, I don't know if they've ever gotten multiple players out of the state of Louisiana in one class.
Well, and we knew adding Morgan that was going to be. I mean, I know he's on the defensive side of the ball, but that area of the country was going to get some more attention. So.
Yeah. So, hey, more down south guys. Bring them in. I'll take them all. So, yeah, Philip Wright. I like his game a lot. A burner, a Roman Wilson type of guy. It's. I think that one's going to get over the finish line here relatively soon-ish. My big concern with Philip Wright is what happens if LSU decides that he's a take, and they decide to push for him. I know he had a conversation with them recently, and the general consensus is that he's not currently a take for LSU. So what happens if there's a situation where something opens up and they decide to push for him? Is it too late? Is he going to be receptive? That's kind of the big concern for me.
Did he make it to Georgia this weekend? I forgot to check.
He made it to Georgia. And there's also an argument there to be made that they're not really sure that Georgia is.
If Georgia would take him, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of my big concern is if LSU decides it wants to get into the picture, can they just point at him and say, hey, come on down. I don't know yet. We'll kind of see. But Michigan has done more than enough to get this over the finish line. And I think they will. It's just a matter of time. So, we'll kind of see what happens. But again, two really good players out of the state of Louisiana. Man, Michigan's on another level right now.
And I don't know where I have him. Is he on my next page? He's not. Is it Jacob Washington?
Yep, Jacob Washington.
Teammates with Parker.
Yep.
So again, at Ron Bellamy's alma mater. And then there's a couple other receivers we're going to talk about. So Michigan's doing big things with wide receiver recruiting after, again, that's been a conversation the last couple of years and the way Michigan plays offense, et cetera. So, I mean, they're going after dudes that, look, Georgia, USC, right? LSU, Texas, some of these big pass-heavy programs. You got Baylor with Wrights on there as well. These are guys coveted by pass-heavy offenses that Michigan's making waves with. It's very interesting, I'll say.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think, if Michigan can just get a couple of big body receivers, can kind of knock that off. Some quick guys that they like the Philip Wrights of the world. I just think Michigan's doing a really good job right now. But
I'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, there's about like 6 or 7 guys out there that you can kind of realistically call possible commits out there. And if they add those guys and you look at the quality, talking about a really good class right now, like all of a sudden.
People have been asking, I'm not real great at this. The way this is trending, Michigan's starting with a high overall rating, and then now, double-digit guys potentially getting added over the next month or two. Where do you think this class could end up rankings-wise? Top 15?
Yeah, I think so.
Get into the top 10 because of some of the high-rating guys you do?
Yeah, maybe. Depends on, if guys can get bumps or not. Maybe they get in on some guys that we're not talking about right now or not thinking about. I think top 15 is realistic. I think that's kind of where Michigan is pretty much operated from. Mm-hmm. I think there's a chance for a top 10. I kind of would have to see where they're sitting right now.
Carter's got to get a bump.
Yeah. And I think I kind of have to see after this initial rush of commitments is over, once you kind of see where the landscape is right now. Like if these 4 guys commit here in the next week or so, or 2 weeks, then, maybe we have we can kind of look at where they are. I mean, right now we have them. What I think they're 27th right now, and that's after the initial rush of what the last. How many guys was that? 2 or 3 guys that came over the finish line. I think it's after the last time I posted a rankings update was after Parker. So Johnson,
Strayhorn. Yep, 27th with 10 dudes. But the gap, the gap between them at 27 and top 10 is literally the same as the gap between Ohio State at 1 and Notre Dame at 2.
Right. Well, and as we mentioned earlier, just look at the average star ranking on that list too. It's off the charts. It's like top 5 right now. It's insane. I think they have like I think it's like 3.95 average in their class, which is huge.
So they're actually third right now. Only Ohio State and LSU are above 4.08 for LSU, 4.11 for Ohio State. Every other program is under 4. Michigan's there at 3.95 with their average ranking, and that's only 10 commits. 9 4-stars, and I'd argue you've got a 5-star in there, and the 3-star of Winston should be a 4-star. So.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's off the charts recruiting right now in terms of the quality over quantity. And I would absolutely, again, take quality over quantity. With the way that Michigan also recruits the portal.
Yes.
If they can continue this high quality, not necessarily, they'll get theirs at the end by the signing day. I mean, they're not going to sit in the teens in terms of who they're going to take, but if they continue to take this high quality class and then couple that with,
that's who I was talking about, Tim. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Avery Gatch. Yeah. I can't believe that there's such a gulf in Gatch's star rankings between networks. But again, you can say the same thing about Winston. It's like we have him criminally underrated too. So it just kind of all depends on who sees him and who goes where and all that stuff. But, I like Michigan's approach here of adding these quantities, and it's going to continue with who they're in on right now.
Let's get into 3 more visitors from this weekend, talking about some of the top recruits in this class. We've got a Notre Dame commit in here, obviously. Back again, receiver, arguably the top target. I'm not even arguably the top target at wide receiver right now with Andrew Marsh. And then offensive lineman, another guard, Hardy Watts. So you were kind of close at one point for FutureCast on Watts. I know Clemson. I mean, if you want to talk about offensive linemen in the 3 schools you would want to consider, Matt Luke at Clemson, obviously Newsman Moore at Michigan, and then Wisconsin. That's about it, right? That's where a big offensive lineman goes, right? Have the Massachusetts pipeline there. Interested to see if they, again, oh my God, Matt Luke. He's been doing a phenomenal job. Former Ole Miss head coach, coaching O-line down at Clemson. He's been doing a phenomenal job this cycle recruiting. And then, let's spend time on each of them. Give me Watts first.
Yeah, I like where Michigan sits coming out of this visit. Had really strong relationship with Sherrone Moore and Grant Newsome. Hardy Watts loves the fact that Sherrone Moore is leading the program as a former lineman and a former OL coach. That really resonates to him. Also loves the fact that Grant Newsome is a former player and understands the grind. Talking to someone on the Clemson side, they think that Michigan probably has the best shot here because they had the last visit. And so with Michigan getting the last shot here, I'm not fully ready yet because this kid really keeps things really tight-lipped. So a lot of people in his circle don't really know where he's leaning, and he doesn't let people in, even off the record too. So it's kind of hard to feel things out where things are. But if you were to decide today, I'd say it would be Michigan, and that's even before coming into this visit over the weekend. So. I just think Michigan offers him everything that he's looking for. I mean, you talk about, mentioning the Joe Moore Award, as a reason why that he wants to go somewhere. These schools aren't selling Joe Moore awards. And even I was talking to someone on the Clemson side. It's like, that's not something they bring up, like to win the Joe Moore award and the things that he laid out. It's the stuff that doesn't, Clemson doesn't recruit. So, or doesn't pitch, I should say. And Michigan pitches the Joe Moore award because they're back-to-back winners. So, I really like where Michigan sits for Hardy Watts right now. I'm not prepared to put in a future cast just yet. I could very well do so here, right as we get off the podcast if I hear something different. But right now, man, I really like where Michigan sits. I like where Michigan sits for, at least two out of these three guys. The last one that we'll talk about here, I'm kind of still iffy about, but again, I would not be surprised if I put in a future cast for Michigan for Hardy Watts this week.
Real quick, somebody asked why I consider Gatch a 5-star. I know he's playing left tackle in high school, and his pass pro has been picked apart a little bit. People expect him to move to the interior. Bredesen, Trevor Keegan, those kind of guys are pretty common comps that he gets. I think personally, and we'll see, I could be wrong, but I think he's going to improve. And I think he's got the footwork. Maybe it'd be at right tackle, but I do think, and if you look at Michigan and how they've been recruiting this class, we haven't seen a lot of movement with tackle. I do think he could end up playing tackle. If he moves the interior, I don't care. He's going to be a stud either way. And I think it's funny that like literally the only reason he's not a 5-star is because they think he's going to stay on the interior, right? That's the tackle guard thing. Was Zach Zinter a 5-star? You know what I mean? So maybe not literally getting that star rating, but in terms of the kind of player he can be, I said the same thing about Andrew Sprague too. So, yeah. But we'll see. Man, I don't know what to say about Andrew Marsh because this is one I just have not allowed myself to be talked into. Because he's that dude, man. He's that kind of receiver, do it all. Again, crazy comp, but he would be Bellamy's highest rated recruit, the best wide receiver recruit Michigan has had since DPJ. And he's that kind of player. He's that dude that can catch the ball at the line of scrimmage and go up the sideline for a touchdown. He can go deep and out jump multiple defenders. He can run crossing routes and slants and do fades and do back shoulders and take punt returns to the house. He's a top 50 player for a reason. Michigan has given him a lot to think about. And in terms of trending, it feels like Michigan's in a good spot here.
Yeah, I like where Michigan's at. I mean, all you have to do is follow the visits. I mean, he had an unofficial visit, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and now he's back for an unofficial visit. At what point do you say, well, what more does he need to know? When he's had 2 big chances to see Michigan. So I can understand where the confidence is coming from. I haven't heard enough personally yet to put in a future cast for Michigan. I think, if, again, like Hardy Watts, if this was a situation where he was deciding in the next day or so, I think you need to have a little bit of recency bias and say, hey, this is probably Michigan. So, we'll kind of see how things go after the initial visit glow, goes here. And I'm trying not to rhyme, but, I think if he is set to decide here sooner rather than later, I think this bodes well for Michigan. I think the longer this gets drawn out, I think that kind of Michigan's chances kind of fade here. So I'll be curious to see what will happen here in terms of whether he's going to drop soon, he's going to drop later. We'll see. But I think if you follow the visits and follow the recency here, I think it bodes well for Michigan's chances here for Andrew Marsh. And it's another one of those situations like Hardy Watts. I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the week I hear enough to put in a future cast. And same for Jacob Washington too. I know he's not on this list because he was kind of a late addition here, but
Yes, I think I have him on the long list.
No, it's okay.
Talk about him whenever.
Yeah, I mean, I may as well talk about him now. So talk about receivers. Yeah, I mean, there was confidence heading into the weekend that they could get him. So to hear like the positive vibes coming out of the visit, I would not be surprised. I spoke to him a little bit after the visit, and he mentioned I'm kind of still waiting to hear back from him for everything else, but you know, he really likes the culture. You know, he spent time with Ron Bellamy, Kirk Campbell during the visit. He also spent time with Sherrone Moore, so they kind of threw the whole red carpet out to him, and he really appreciated the culture. You know, what he said to me was that he gave him a great idea of what the Block M really means. So, you know, he really appreciated the vision of what they were selling. So again, to hear, and also to mention too, he's teammates with Jasper Parker, so you've got that guy in your ear too. So you've got that working in your favor. So to hear that Michigan is in a good spot, not surprising because they were kind of expected to be in a good spot. Well, they expected to be in a good spot, I should say, heading out of the visit. So is he one of the 4 eyeballs that Sherrone Moore has tweeted out? Well, now it's what, like 2 now, because 2 have already committed. Is he the 2 eyeballs? Maybe. It's possible. I know one's accounted for, and I know which one that is. I'm not going to say it, but you're not going to make me say it. No one's going to trick me into saying it.
I will.
So is it the 4th eyeball that Sherrone Moore tweeted out? Maybe. I mean, there's a couple of options there. So Michigan's in a good spot right now, where, you know, it could be a handful of guys. So, yeah, I mean, to see a class of a possible class of Philip Wright, Andrew Marsh, Washington, and maybe a 4th. Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. I mean, that's a really solid wide receiver class.
I know our buddy Richie, who handles the East Coast with Penn State, Rutgers, he has Marsh to Michigan. I have not reached out to Jeff at Orange Bloods. I'd be really interested to see what he's hearing. He's had Texas A&M, but for a long time, like going back to winter. And a lot has changed since then. Obviously, his most recent visits, USC and Texas. I mean, when you think about high octane passing games, right? That's what Michigan's up recruiting against. And again, that the progress they're making is very encouraging. Marsh would just be an unreal get. And then, like you said, this whole wide receiver class, there's a few more names on the next page too we'll talk about. They're going to end up with 3 to 4 really good receivers no matter what. At least that's what it feels like. So I don't have him on here, but we can pair him together. The ND lean of Ivan Taylor, which, oh my God, I'm old. I didn't realize Ike Taylor's son.
That's Ike Taylor's kid? I didn't even know that was Ike Taylor's kid.
Uh-huh.
What? Oh, yeah. My God.
Yeah, so.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Look, he's been tweeting. He's been tweeting about Michigan a lot this weekend. Nathaniel Owusu Boateng.
Yeah.
His brother, obviously, really, was it? No, I can't even. Was it Jeremiah? Went to the Browns. I think he's somewhere else now. But anyway,
yeah. Yep.
Really good linebacker for Notre Dame. Again, another IMG dude, and he called that out about multiple IMG dudes going to Michigan. Another one, you know. I think he's just having fun with social media, whatever. I know he tweeted another announcement coming soon. Maybe he's committed to ND, but he's clearly still playing this. I'm going to have another top 3 nail down, whatever. It feels like Michigan did really well with him this weekend. I mean, I always get a little anxious with guys that are committed to a rival. You know, the Ohio State guys come in and post them in Michigan.
He's not committed. He's just heavily favored right now.
Why did I think he was committed?
Because he's heavily favored. Like,
is Taylor committed? That's what it is. Taylor's committed.
Ivan Taylor is committed.
My bad. Yeah. Because the 3 Steelers.
Yes.
Because it's Taylor, Plaxico Burris's kid, and Jerome Bettis' kid are all Notre Dame. That's what it is. Okay,
That's
Taylor's committed. Apologize. But yeah, Nathaniel has been considered a heavy ND lean for a while. So has Michigan made a case here?
I would think so. Yes.
God.
I think they've made a case, yes, but does that mean they get him?
Right.
That's another question in itself. I mean, the fact that they're in on it is good. I think it would be it'll be a win of all wins if they can get this one across the finish line. I mean, yeah, having two guys in IMG is a good thing to have, but man, Notre Dame's been in on this forever. Ohio State's been in on this forever.
Does the DeMatha DMV? I mean, I know he's at IMG now, but does the Maryland thing help at all? You think?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think anything is going against Michigan in this favor, except for I think maybe the relationships he has with Notre Dame and Ohio State. I mean, well, I think Notre Dame is more of a threat right now, but man, I mean, if they can win this, I think that's their best win, or Jerome Moore's best win by far on the trail. I mean, they probably came in from behind here and would have stole it. But I mean, there's no denying. I think they made an impression. I mean, this kid's not tweeting out Michigan stuff for nothing.
I like him so much. I don't think he's gonna add weight.
Day one starter.
Yeah, I don't. He's Junior Colson, right? He's got some of that sideline to sideline like a Devin Bush. I don't think he's going to get big enough to do some of the things Devin Bush did. But again, a guy that can get after ball carriers and can go sideline to sideline, that can impact the quarterback, can drop back in coverage. I mean, he's just such an obvious fit in the Michigan defense. And then, I mean, it's no secret. Notre Dame has done pretty well on the recruiting trail against Michigan, right? So that'd be a big statement win for a new staff. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Time will tell, but I mean, again, there's just a lot to like right now with momentum for sure.
All right. So this is the full list from the Victors weekend. We've obviously talked about a bunch of these guys. Michigan did what they always do, which is a good mix of having your commits and your recruiters on campus, right, to try and close the deal with some folks. So we talked about Carter Smith, the Florida QB. He was around. Donovan Johnson has committed. We've talked about Marsh. Taz Williams, another wide receiver we haven't touched on. That felt like a Michigan lean for a long time. And then, I don't know, was it Texas A&M now maybe? Feels like the driver's seat on that one, or is he still – I guess we'll have to see coming out of the visit. But
we'll kind of have to wait. I'll kind of have to wait. But, I think Texas A&M took a lot of Michigan's momentum away. They had a lot of it early in the year. I can't really sit here and say it's going to be Michigan for sure, but would Michigan absolutely take them right now? Yes. I mean, they'd have that if they have a group of 4 with Marsh and Williams in it. It's going to be very, very good. So, it's kind of early for me right now to say where things are or where they're headed, but it's funny. I mean, the script seems to be flipped. I mean, Michigan now has a better chance with Marsh than it really does.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
It's funny how recruiting works and how much changes from week to week.
Which is why, again, we'll look at this show a month from now. But
yeah, that's true.
I feel a lot better about this one. There's been some other ones where we're like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Like these are kids making just big life decisions, right?
Right.
I put him on here. It was actually a couple days before the weekend. Josiah Abdul was committed to Florida for a few months recently, decommitted, has been to Ann Arbor. I've been talking to him a little bit. He just decommitted at the start of the month. Had a good visit, was really interested in, the sales pitch he got. I'm not sure where he is on his timeline or where Michigan is as well. Obviously, they've got some guys like Marsh and then, Jacob Washington on here they've been talking to quite a bit. So Andrew Olesh, we brought him up. Shocker, bringing Eli Owens in so those two could talk. Owens has gotten some Max Bredesen comparisons. He's more of that physical blocker. Olesh is maybe your outside receiver. What a duo that would be. We've talked about Hardy Watts. Strayhorn obviously committed. let's talk about this, getting Nate Marshall back on campus. I know you said we talked about it a little bit with Jalen Williams, but post the Auburn visit, that feels really good. Holding on to your best recruit there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that kid's gonna be a stud. It's gonna be a stud.
So we got Bobby KANKA again, came in, shut down his recruitment. No more of the MSU stuff. Maxwell Roy, we'll see if they, whatever momentum push to Ohio State, like you said, if that came back, if they can get him to commit. We just talked about Owusu Boateng. How about Kamar Archie? I think he was a name we heard a lot really early in this cycle. He's back on campus this weekend.
Yeah, I like Michigan here a lot. I don't really want to say they're the team to beat, but was told by a little birdie that he was spotted at the Detroit Metro Airport with a lot of M&M bags. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But yeah, that one kind of seems to me like it's been a long time where I think it's probably going to be Michigan, and it still could be Michigan, but something could happen in between where it's not. But coming out of this visit, I still feel I'm not ready to put in a prediction yet, but I like where Michigan's chances are here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those three names right there. That's a hell of a linebacker class. I mean, if you get Archie and Taylor, I'm happy with that too. But
yep.
Ivan Taylor, again, we mentioned a decommit. Jordan Young, kind of similar in terms of, I feel like we heard his name early. He was on campus, hasn't exactly been trending Michigan's way before this visit. I know it's early. You might not have heard anything on him yet, but that's a big-time recruit as well getting on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have to do some more digging on those guys. But, yeah, there's definitely some future Wolverines on this list.
Yeah, and that's just what I was going to say. I mean, you look at who is committed already, and you just pick off another handful of these dudes.
Yep.
And that's a monster class coming together pretty quickly for a lot of folks that were concerned, to say the least, about.
Yeah, a lot of difference a month makes. I mean, we kept saying like, hey, June is going to be the month where it's going to be busy, and if they aren't having success in June, there's going to be issues.
Exactly.
So now the script is totally flipped, and be like, hey, this is, things are going pretty well right now. So, we'll kind of see how things go, and Michigan always closes strong. And there's always a guy that we're talking about right now, that we're not talking about right now,
100%.
that pops up around November and December, and or even in February sometimes. So, this isn't Michigan's class yet. There's still a long way to go, for both additions and subtractions. So,
I remember last summer, right there was a moment, especially with edge recruiting, where it felt like Michigan was just going to pile on.
Yep. And
they had their pick of the litter, if you will. So momentum is one thing. Closing the deal is they closed the deal with some big names.
Yep.
That this class, we just talked about average ranking. They're a top 3 class right now. But a lot of these guys we've been talking about trending momentum. It's summer. You got to close the deal. So
agreed.
All right. So Josh and I both have probably had our attention getting pulled away. Stuff is always happening. It feels like this weekend. Dead period starts. Is it tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's the 24th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit pause, but
breathe a little bit.
Well, no, you can't. That's not true.
Yeah, never. Yeah. What am I saying?
That's the NOA. The NOA is going to drop on Monday just to screw with us.
What NOA? You want to talk about it?
Do you?
I mean, I don't. After talking to people, I don't think the NCAA has anything on Michigan. I don't.
My mood has not changed from when all this broke out.
No.
Which the version, I hate being the media. I hate being that guy, but the version of this massive conspiracy involving a bunch of people, this sign stealing scheme, right, that was pitched out there. For one thing, the idea about sign stealing, and we keep hearing things about, you can see stallions on the sideline, you're stealing signs. You're allowed to steal signs. And we presented evidence throughout this of Ohio State stealing Michigan signs, using all 22 footage, right? Using TV broadcast, right?
Mhm.
That's the reason the NCAA almost got rid of this in-person scouting rule, which is the actual piece of it that Michigan allegedly broke, not the sign stealing, was because it was an old irrelevant rule that it didn't serve a purpose anymore. The stupidest thing about whatever Stalions did is he didn't need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we've said forever, like trying to prove there was some massive advantage gained. Right. It was just going to be such a tough sell because this wasn't other coaches. This wasn't assistants. The only people that got tickets from Stallions that have come public, one was a D3 coach, which it was hilarious what he said.
Yeah.
And the rest of them have been people that were like, no, like I legitimately just went to the game. I haven't been to a Michigan game. You know, thank you, whatever. Like they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to connect it to anybody on staff. It's just, I don't know what people thought was going to come out of this.
People are giving way. I'm sure Connor's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but people are giving him way too much credit than he deserves.
Right.
He's not some brilliant. They're making him out to be some like brilliant.
Well, you remember at the beginning because of his military background, that was the whole thing. Was he just like he's this former Navy? Yeah.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, and I'm not trying to trash him and stuff. And I would tell this to him. I think people are like blowing this way out of proportion, like he's some super sleuth that figured out all of this stuff and figured out every play from every team in the country. I just one man. Yeah, maybe there wasn't. I don't know what kind of operation there was because they can't find any links to the staff. That people are just giving this guy way too much credit. Just way too much credit for this operation that he was working on. It's the whole thing was just dumb to begin with. It continues to be dumb. So far, they have not found any connections between the staff. I think most of the NCAA. It's funny.
That's a good joke.
Once hit a near counter Stanley's first. Yeah, that's exactly the ridiculousness of it all. It's like that's what people think. So I don't know, man. Like,
well, and we live in the bubble where we got to interact with the MSU and the OSU rivals, and I think that really warps the perception of it.
Yeah,
and I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to. I get invited on some radio shows that are national. Some Southern folks want to get somebody to talk about Michigan because they don't get a lot of coverage down there. And whenever I talk to these people, like they don't think it's a big deal. Like at this, they think, and this is the thing too, people, I know everyone's frustrated by the way, and I am too, the way Big Ten suspended Harbaugh and the way the other teams kind of bullied the commissioner into that and that whole process. But in a weird way, they did Michigan a favor because Michigan beating Penn State, beating Ohio State without Jim Harbaugh, with Stallions being fired, with all of the NCAA attention on them in the back half of the season to go out and win the national championship. There's a reason the NCAA president said nobody can say Michigan didn't win fair and square.
Yeah.
Right. So having it happen in season, which we've never seen before, anything like that, in a weird way, I think has taken a lot of the sting out of it, I guess. I don't know what term I would use, but like I've seen some reasonable Ohio State people that have even come out and said like, okay, this was fun at first, but dude, they won. Right? Michigan won. You just can't say anything anymore, right? So, and again, the people that are really passionate about thinking it was this terrible cheating scandal don't understand the scandal because they'll say things like, well, yeah, it's real easy when you know what play is coming. Like, so you don't even understand what's being alleged here.
People don't understand football. I mean, this whole scandal has really separated the ball knowers from non-ball knowers.
Well, when the scandal first broke, anybody who had played high school, college, pro football that was now an analyst on TV was literally like laughing about it. You remember?
Yeah.
And then it was almost like the memo went out like, hey, we got to pretend this is a big scandal, but like, I remember Brady quit, JJ Watt, some of these guys, Robert Griffin were like, what? Like, yeah, dude, we've always done that. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway,
all it did, as Steve mentioned here, all it did was just piss the team off, and
that's a good point.
And it gave SHERRONE the opportunity of a lifetime to
That's a great point
audition for this job that he now has. So
great point too.
It's funny, you can almost think that not like Michigan is almost better off that this happened than it didn't. In a sense, you can make that argument, but
because it was happening. Like Stallions, again, Harbaugh had this blind spot. We've talked about this when it comes to hiring, where it's like you misunderstand rabid, crazy fan as passion, right? Think, oh, this guy can come in and work for it. Like, probably shouldn't have even been around. Again, no offense to Connor, but like, the whole manifesto thing.
I'm not trying to trash the guy. Like, like he's I'm sure he was trying to work hard and trying to make his name in the thing, but like
100%.
People are not Connor. People are blowing this out of proportion, like of what his impact was on the program.
Well, and the reason why people knew about a lot of the stuff he was doing, and the reason why a lot of stuff about other programs came out around that same time, all of the science dealers talk to each other.
Right.
They share stuff. Like, that's what I think the thing that made me most upset through all that was the Michigan State comments.
Oh God, yeah.
Pretending they weren't going to play the game.
Yeah.
And talking about player safety a year after the assaults in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then knowing full well people steal signs. And then remember for like the first half, they were like huddling and going sideline to sideline with the calls.
As
like
Michigan was up like 35-0 at the time.
Right. Well, no, that you're literally hurting any chance you have of being competitive in this game to like, to throw a tantrum. Just embarrassing.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
easy way to fix it. Put communication in the helmet. Turn it into NFL when you want to anything like that again.
I do think we'll see. Stallions is probably going to get a show cause and some type of reprimand, or I don't know how they're going to word it.
I mean, he will for sure, because as far from what I was told, he's probably going to face 3 counts, like 3 total counts. It's like one, it was a conspiracy to
thing,
break bylaw, whatever the in-person scouting bylaw number is. And then there's 2 others that he's probably facing as a failure to cooperate, which is failure to cooperate with Michigan's investigation, as well as failing to cooperate with the NCAA. So that'll probably get you a pretty hefty show cause.
I still love that the CMU story absolutely disappeared once they realized what that was about.
Well, and they haven't been able to find out if that's him or not. They don't have evidence of that being him, even though there's technically video evidence. But
they used a fake name to get him in.
Right. They don't have evidence. They can't corroborate it. So
I mean, it was him.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was him. It absolutely.
But he was there to help out CMU and like try and steal signs for MSU. This wasn't some covert operation to get more information on Michigan State. Michigan didn't know he was there. It's just But and Harbaugh, dude, they separated him from the Burgergate deal. They're gonna. I mean, that's all they ever wanted in the beginning. They'll put out something to absolutely bash him and how horrible he treated the NCAA and like how dare he not respect our leadership and cooperate. It's going to be stupid. But Burgergate, Michigan, 3-year probation, a fine. The recruiting restrictions were already self-imposed in the previous year. It's going to be good to have it over. And I think over time, it'll be like, I keep making the Deflategate comparison. Mm-hmm. I said at the time, if Michigan goes out and wins, that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the Patriots. And if you're a Jets fan still talking about Tom Brady letting out a little bit of extra air, you look like an idiot. Nobody knew that was a rule. Just like this, nobody had any idea what was even being alleged or whatever the rule was suggested. So I don't know. Hopefully it's over sooner rather than later. And oh my God, the OSU accounts with the hammer nonsense. I'm so sick. So sick of it. Oh, what you got?
I don't know if I can share it right now.
Aw.
It's not. I have to talk to someone. I have to reach out. first.
All right.
To reach out. It's juicy. It's juicy. Michigan's getting there. Well, there's sea legs. They're figuring it out. Hey, you know what, Steve? Become a subscriber. If I can find out tonight, become a subscriber and I'll post it on the boards. How about that?
And guess what? If you're not a subscriber already, you can join now for free. Until fall camp.
Free until fall camp, and you can find out what I just read, and hopefully this person gets back to me in time, or otherwise I'm gonna look like an asshole, which isn't the first time that's happened.
Josh, you will look like an asshole no matter what. It's okay.
I do it every week, you know.
Selling the steak, not the sizzle. Good shit.
I'm a big steak guy.
Oh, I love steak, dude.
Love me a good steak.
Is that your last meal? Death row?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Steak, asparagus.
Yep.
And steak fries.
Loaded baked for me.
Ooh, yeah, that's good too. I do a steak
tall ass fry. I have done the like steak frites where they do the like really skinny fries with the it's like hollandaise sauce, but it's a little bit different. I can't think of Bornese, that weird like cheese sauce. Oh, that shit's good. Yep. But oh my god, I can do porterhouse because you get the strip and you get the filet mignon. I love a ribeye. I've gotten into like prime rib with like the horseradish sauce too. Oh my god.
Yep.
I had you both for Taco Bell on the last meal. Ew. I guess if you really want to piss them off, you know you're getting electrocuted, load up on some T-Bell before, so
just poop everywhere.
Shit yourself everywhere as you're getting electrocuted.
Spray poop as you get electrocuted all over the wall. Now you have another cleanup.
I don't know what would even compete for steak.
There's nothing.
It'd be like a German meal my mom or grandma made or something like that. It'd have to be something
give me
weirdly specific, but
give me like a tomahawk steak as my last meal.
Yeah,
tomahawk
loaded potatoes. Yeah, the asparagus. I've really grown to like the asparagus.
I mean, you can't really go wrong with any side with a steak, but asparagus, top tier. Grilled.
I was just gonna say grilled asparagus. Shit ton of butter on it.
Yep.
Garlic, maybe.
Yep. Then it'll make your pee smell. They do. Look it up. Asparagus makes your pee smell.
You want to talk about pee?
No, not really. Not really. I don't want to talk about pee.
Yeah.
It does. It makes your pee smell.
There's a little inside baseball.
Yeah. Literally, you got a baseball inside of you.
Yeah, a little bit smaller now. It's a little bit smaller now. Yeah.
Oh no.
Go. Yeah. So we can talk about. Okay, let's not.
We're done talking about pee.
The chicken and shrimp at Applebee's.
That's a good choice.
All right. I saw they're doing their half off apps again.
Oh, nice.
Dude, early 20s, me and my friends, before any of us had kids, I think I was at Applebee's 3 or 4 nights a week. Because you could get the Brutus, the tall beer, for like $3.
Yeah.
Half off wings, quesadillas, and stuff. Love that. I love that we're having this conversation, and then there's like an all-out argument going on.
Yeah, I kind of respect it. They've been going for it this whole time.
Is that Jason and Antoine?
Yeah, I respect it.
You're delusional.
There's a couple of people in there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I haven't been paying attention to what the argument was about.
I haven't either, but I think something to do with the kind of offense Michigan runs.
Yeah, I respect it because they've been going at it for half the show.
We almost got through the show without a Circuit City reference.
Yep.
Yeah. I did work at Circuit City. That is correct. All right, trying to see if there's anything else I want to touch on before we go. Not shocked, but a little surprised because we've been so scattered the last couple months, which thank you again. You guys, I know that, we haven't been real consistent while I've been dealing with some stuff, so I appreciate you. I knew because of content this might be a good show, but even though we've been talking about death row meals and some nonsense, we are at over 2,700 live viewers currently. We've been over 2,000 for nearly all the show. So yeah, we really appreciate you guys. This has been This has been a fun one. So I hope you guys get the vibe. If you haven't been watching it live, as you can see, our loyal viewers can get into arguments. We feel like we're trying to talk with you guys, not at you. And, want this conversation to be as lively and back and forth as we can. And again, I know it's a shameless plug and not trying to turn into an infomercial, but we do this all day, every day over at the Den, Michigan.Rivals.com. The promo free until fall camp. Obviously, that'll get you through the next month and a half or so. And obviously, like, if Josh does get anything cool from his recent phone call, he'll be sure to post it over there right away. So if you're not a subscriber already, we would love for you guys to give us a shot. And again, feel free to tweet about it on Twitter. You can ask the folks in the comments right here. There's a bunch of subscribers and folks that join us every week. You guys are loyal. We appreciate you. Couldn't do it without you, but ask them. They are our best advocates because they are the community. They help build it. So can't thank you guys enough. At this point, I think we're going to try to get back to being live every single Sunday. 4th of July weekend, and then July, I think it's the 9th is my last operation, so that might throw a hiccup into things. We'll have to see how it goes, but we're going to try and be live every Sunday to continue to cover recruiting. And then obviously some of the summer intel around the 2024 season is going to start to come in, and then we'll obviously have to start talking basketball too. Which it's good to be excited about basketball.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So make sure you're liking the channel, commenting on the video, subscribing, notification bell so you know when we go live. And then other than that, like I said, great show, Josh. Dude, good to do this with you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Feels good.
Yeah. All right, guys. So please subscribe, YouTube, go over to the Michigan.Rivals.com, join the community if you haven't. We will see you in a week. Hail to the podcast.